Y'all, it's Hannah and welcome back to my channel, or hi, hello if you're new here. If you're new here, hi, hello and welcome. My name is Hannah. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out me and my YouTube channel. For today's video, I'm really excited because I decided to do another one of these ranking videos. So the last time that I did this video, I ranked all of my Profusion eyeshadow palettes, and today I'm going to be ranking all of my BH Cosmetics palettes. So I have all of them sitting right here stacked up on my desk. So let's go ahead and get right on into this video. Ranking in at number 7, we have the Nude Rose eyeshadow palette from BH Cosmetics. Now, some of these palettes are discontinued because that is a bad thing about BH Cosmetics, is that a lot of times they will discontinue a lot of their palettes. This is one of their palettes that was discontinued. Now, this is kind of a knockoff a little bit of the Naked Basics palette is kind of what I get the vibes from. It's packaged in a metal little packaging doodad, and then this is just what the shades look like. They're very cool toned. They're very basic. They're all shimmery. There is not a matte in this palette whatsoever, and because of that, I just don't really vibe with this palette. I hardly ever use this palette. This palette just sits in my drawer, hardly ever touched, ever used. I think I might have used like 1 or 2 shades out of this palette, and I just haven't really touched it much. It's just not my cup of tea. It's just not my vibe. I don't mind cool tone shadows. I just have a lot of hard time working with this palette just simply for the fact that, like I mentioned, it doesn't really have any mattes in here. Normally I do mix and match my palettes, but honestly, the pigment of this is just not that great. It's very sheer. It's very patchy. The quality of this palette is very, very inconsistent. So I rank this in at number 7 just for that reasoning, that this is just something that I hardly ever reach for in my makeup collection. I probably will be decluttering this in the future. Coming in at number 6, we have the BH Cosmetics Desert Oasis palette. Now, this has 19 color eyeshadows, and it also has highlighters in the palette as well. So I'm just going to open it up and show y'all what it looks like. So this is just what it looks like. It is all shimmers. Over here to this side of the palette, the bigger pans are the highlighters, and then the smaller pans are the eyeshadows. Now, like I did say, that this palette is very similar to that palette that I just ranked in at number 7 because these have a lot of shimmer in the palette. There's only 2 mattes in this palette altogether, but honestly, I really like this palette, and I do get a lot of use out of the palette. It makes really pretty shadow looks for the summertime, which is mostly when I do like to use it. I'm not a big fan of the highlighters. This particular highlight right here, that is just way too yellow toned, and then this one right here is way too pink. So I could do without the highlighters in the palette. I definitely wish they would have just put more shadows in the palette rather than highlighters, but I still do get a lot of use out of the palette just out of the shadows alone, because the shadows are really pretty. They're very pigmented. They're really glittery though. So if you don't like glitter eyeshadow, you might want to skip on that palette if it's still available. But I really like it, and it's something that I do use during the summer months. Coming in at number 5, we have the Aurora Light eyeshadow palette. Now, I believe that this palette has been discontinued because this was recently on sale for a really good deal. But I really like these eyeshadows. They are a baked formula, so you can use these wet or dry. I prefer to use these wet because they just make such a beautiful metallic finish on the lid. The colors in here are really nice as well. I use the shade Ombre whenever I need a really pretty glittery white topper for my shadow looks. And as you do wet them, the intensity and the pigment of them are just phenomenal. I really like this palette. It is a really good glittery palette. Again, it has huge chunks of glitter in it. So if you're not about that life, you might want to skip on these because these aren't really metallic. These are just straight out glittery, which, like I said, I really like that. I love glitter. Glitter is the bomb.com for me. And this is a really good eye topper palette. I wouldn't really use these as eyeshadows, and I don't. I mostly just use these as eye toppers. Coming in at number 4, we have the BH Cosmetics Royal Affair palette. Now, this palette has 20 shadows in the palette, and this is just what it looks like. It's a really basic neutral palette, but it does kind of have some fun pops of color in here as well, and it does have some really pretty shimmers and metallics and glitters in the palette as well. This is a nicely pigmented palette. You can create really pretty, really basic looks with this palette, or you could use the fun little pops of color and make something really cool and really different, which is also why I like the palette as well. I have really enjoyed using the shade Lady in this palette because it's such a beautiful salmon pink color. It's very unique and it's very different. It's not really something that I have in a lot of other palettes. I use this one a lot whenever I travel or go places just because it's a very easy and convenient palette because it's very easy to create looks without really putting much thought into them. Alright, now we're entering the top 3. So, coming in at number 3, I have the BH Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette. And this of you probably was expecting this to be at number 1 because I use this in a lot of tutorials. Not every single tutorial, but I've used this in a lot of tutorials. I really like this palette, and I feel like with this palette, BH Cosmetics really stepped up their quality, and they really stepped up their game because there is a lot of shadows in here. Every single shadow in here is a very pigmented and very easy to blend out. There is no inconsistency in the palette whatsoever. My favorite shade is Palooza. Shockingly, it's a blue shade. I love blue eyeshadow, so that is one of my favorites in this palette. It is really easy and really fun to create really fun, bright, colorful looks with this palette. There are also some neutrals in this palette as well that you can use to create a really basic everyday look, but for the most part, I love to use this palette for really fun, bright, colorful looks. So that is why that is coming in at number 3. Coming in at number 2, we had the 28 color foiled eyeshadow palette from BH Cosmetics, and this is just what it looks like. This is foiled and shimmer eyeshadows in this palette, so every single shade in this palette is shimmery. Now, I don't use this palette as a whole together because it's very hard to make a really good look out of all shimmer shadows, but whenever I do need a shimmer shadow, I always reach for this palette, and this palette works phenomenal wet, and it also works really great in conjunction with the number 1 palette, and that would be my Modern Matte eyeshadow palette from BH Cosmetics, and this is just what this one looks like. I got this on sale for $8. No, I got it on sale for $4, and then I went back and I purchased the foiled palette as well, and I like to use this in conjunction with the foiled palette. Now, this is an all matte eyeshadow palette. Every single shadow in here is matte, and it's super pigmented as well. It is very easy to blend out and to work with. You do have some neutrals in the palette, but you also have a lot of bright and colorful eyeshadows to work with as well. And like I mentioned, this works really nicely with the foiled eyeshadow palette. So with these two together, you can make a really pretty, fun, colorful look. Alrighty everyone, so that is my completed video of me ranking all of my BH Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes. I would really quickly, I should have said this at the beginning, but I forgot to. I really like BH Cosmetics in a whole. If you're very familiar with me and my channel, you know that I have a huge love and passion for these palettes, but you definitely can tell with some of their more older palettes that their quality back in the day just wasn't great, and you can really tell with their newer palettes that the quality is improving and evolving. So I do really want to quickly mention that the palettes that I rated lower, but those were some of the older palettes, and then the ones that I ranked higher were some of the newer palettes. So anyway, that is all for today's video. I really hope that you all did enjoy this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up down below. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button while you're down there as well, so that way you can keep up with me, you can keep tabs on me, because I post and upload new videos every Thursday, Saturdays, and Mondays at 6 or 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The holidays are just around the corner, and I have a ton of fun things planned for y'all. So be sure to come back on Thursday so that way you can watch a really fun and festive makeup tutorial. Also, be sure to give me a follow over on social media as well, because YouTube doesn't always do the greatest job at letting you know whenever I do upload a new video. So the easiest way to kind of keep up with that would be also to follow me on my social media as well, so that way you can keep up with it, you can keep tabs on me, and you can just look out when I post and upload new videos. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you all in Thursday's video. Bye, my little Hannah Corn.